Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for waiting there for a few minutes. We were figuring out some technical issues. Thanks for hopping on with us tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about Assemblage Art Fund, go over general program information, eligibility, navigating the application, and then we'll have a chance for some Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So my name is Grace Whately. I am the grants manager at the Utah Museum of Contemporary Art. And on our call, we also have Jared Stephenson, our curator, and Roxanne Gray is here with us as well, helping us out with Q&A and documentation. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just kind of program introduction. You may already be familiar with the program if you applied last year, but we're going to go over some basic info just to get that covered. Eligibility requirements, the two funding tiers that we offer for grants, and how those grants are made. And then the second thing we're going to go over is some funded projects. Jared's going to talk about some project examples. And then we have some current grantees on the call that are going to share a little bit about their project as well. And then we'll go through the application process. We'll do a little tour of the application on Submittable, go over some important notes for applying and what's been updated since last year, and then review some application work resources that are available for you all. And then we'll go over just a basic overview of requirements and reporting if you do get a grant. And then we'll have some time for some Q&A. So most of you are probably familiar with UMOCA, the Utah Museum of Contemporary Art. Just in case, we are at the local contemporary art museum here in Salt Lake City. We offer exhibitions, public programs, workshops, and a variety of K through 12 youth education programming. And you can visit utahmoca.org to learn a little bit more about us if you are less familiar. So the Assemblage Art Fund was launched in the summer of 2025. Last year was our first program year. It's a grant program for visual artists and collectives in Salt Lake County, Utah. So we partnered with the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts to launch this program as part of their regional regranting program. And the foundation, through that program, partners with local arts orgs to issue funding that the organizations can then allocate because they know the communities best. So the program, the regional regranting program was established in 2007, and currently they have 39 regional regranting programs, which is pretty impressive. They even have one in Alaska right now. So the goals of the Assemblage Art Fund, our regional granting program, is to celebrate and strengthen Salt Lake County's diverse local arts community, expand audiences and understanding of the contemporary arts, and enable new arts projects that push the boundaries of contemporary visual arts. So to be eligible for this grant opportunity, you must identify a lead applicant as the main grant contact. So this is the person that's responsible for all the grant communications, essentially your administrative contact. This person must be a resident of Salt Lake County, must be over 21 years of age, and not currently enrolled in a college or university program. And that's just your lead applicant. Your other collaborators do not necessarily have to meet those requirements. So the project location, the project must occur within Salt Lake County primarily. It must be visually arts based, cannot be traditional theater, traditional music, has to be rooted in the visual arts, even if it incorporates some of those elements. It must be collaborative in nature or incorporate collaborative elements. It cannot be conducted by or in partnership with a 501c3 nonprofit. It cannot be ongoing. So we do not offer like general operating funds for a gallery or a current project. It's meant to support new ventures and collaborations that are likely ineligible for other funding opportunities or overlooked by other funding sources. But we will fund a significant evolution of a previous effort. So can be like the next step of a past project. As far as timeline, the project must be completed within the 12-month grant cycle. So grants will be awarded in November, must be completed by the following November. And completed refers to completing the goals outlined in your application. So for example, if your project establishes a new artist residency, even though the residency would become ongoing, the project would be completed since you established the residency. And the project must be publicly accessible, so be presented to the public and have a public component to it. So ineligible projects, pretty much anything that doesn't meet the requirements that I just outlined there, so just the opposite, occurs outside of Salt Lake County, conducted by an individual primarily that doesn't meet those lead applicant requirements, conducted by or in partnership with a nonprofit. We talked about sustaining ongoing projects, something already planned, any project that cannot feasibly meet that timeline, and any project not rooted in the visual arts. So the two tiers of grants that we offer through the Assemblage Art Fund are the process grants, which are $5,000, and project grants, which are $10,000. And in your application, you will identify one of these tiers to apply to, and you will either be awarded that full grant amount or you will not be awarded funding. So choose your tier carefully, kind of in relation to the scale and ambition of your project. Right? So if you select the $10,000 amount and the jurors think that this would have been better scaled back a bit at the $5,000 amount, you won't receive a grant and they won't change that amount. So that's an important consideration when you're developing your application. So process grants, that $5,000 amount, supports early stage or small scale projects, kind of initiating new ideas, testing things, working at a smaller scale, maybe an early phase of something that could potentially become a larger project, projects like that. And then that $10,000 tier is better suited for kind of major, more ambitious efforts from collectives, teams, or an individual with proven capacity. So yeah, just consider your grant tier carefully when you're selecting. So our grants are awarded by an external jury panel. Jared and I do not select the grant awards, so keep that in mind. We're here to kind of facilitate the application process and help you navigate it. But we do not have any sway in making those final decisions. So we have 4 jurors come in, one locally based, one is regionally or rurally based. We have 1 juror from another of those regional granting partners and 1 juror who is more national or international. And they first conduct an online scoring review. And then we like to have them here at the museum in person for an in-person panel. Get to know everyone, sit down for a full day and really dig into all the projects and make those final grant awards. So our scoring criteria, jurors score applications using the following criteria, that the project is collaborative in nature, and this can include partnering with unconventional art spaces, incorporating community participation, utilizing landscape, weather, or wildlife as a collaborative element, working with skilled laborers, local businesses. So collaboration can kind of be interpreted broadly in that way. The project is public facing and locally engaged. So efforts to expand audiences, and this ties into unconventional art venues as well. Just kind of putting arts in spaces that arts are not typically in, right? Leveraging new platforms, creating audience engagement, etc. And finally, that the project is alternative in practice. There are components to the project that are innovative, surprising, experimental, expanding the practice of the artist or collective, not just doing what you're already good at or what you've done before. But we really like to see projects that are kind of pushing artists outside of their comfort zones a little bit. This funding is meant to support experimentation. And then we also have the jurors rubric that they will actually receive and use to score projects, and that's available on the website. And I will actually pull that up quickly here to look at. Okay. And this is what that looks like. For time's sake, we're not going to go through the whole thing, but you can see exactly how your application will be scored and use that as a guide as you're developing your application. So again, that's available on the website here. I'll be that first link. So I'm now going to pass it over to Jared, who's going to talk about some of our current grantee projects.
Sorry, can everybody see my screen? Is it working? Okay, cool.
Looks good to me.
Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna like quickly kind of go over 4 projects that were funded last time around. They're just sort of randomly selected. So I just kind of went through and grabbed a few things. If you want to read more about the other projects that were funded, please go to the Assemblage website. But I just kind of wanted to break these down a little bit and kind of give you an explanation as to why I think they were selected, because like Grace said, I'm like not part of the process at all, but there's like certain aspects of the projects that I think stood out for this. So the first one is a project by Kat Nix and Connor Estes. You can read that there. So essentially, they're working with the idea of creating a death nest, almost like you would create a birth nest for, for the birth of a child. But they're looking at ways of thinking about pleasure at the end of your life rather than just comfort. So they're thinking about what sounds would be meaningful and comforting towards the end of someone's life. So they're kind of sourcing those sounds, and then they're also doing some interviews with people about what those sounds would be like if you were able to choose for yourself at the end of life. And then, so they'll be creating a bench with this sort of death nest created by Kat. Kat is a florist by trade and is very connected to the meaning and importance of plants in her practice. And Connor does a lot of music and sort of soundscape and interview kind of cultivation. And so together they would be creating this nest for people to sit and kind of engage with. So I think the things that at least, excuse me, stand out for me is the community that they're looking to reach through the project and collaborate with outside of a typical audience at one of these experiences, or, like typically at a museum. The two of them are collaborating, very different practices, but bringing those two together. So sort of finding that shared space. They're looking to install this at the public library, Salt Lake Library. So alternative venue, but a venue that really connects and connects to the community at large, and really opens it up to a broader community. So that's one thing that I thought, like, those are the things that I think kind of stood out for it. So next one is called Construction Company. It's a collaboration between Stephen Chortowiski, Joshua Graham, and Chaz Premek. And they're kind of thinking about sort of construction as a way to talk about repair. and what repair means. Either that's a physical repair or community repair, emotional repair, and how can they create a space of conversation. So they've created a series of these benches, and these benches will be taken to a different locations, and they'll engage with communities. And these benches kind of create the spaces for that interaction and those conversations about what it means to repair at large. And so those, it doesn't have, at least from what I could tell, it doesn't have like this is where we're going to exhibit this artwork. The artwork really exists in those spaces where the community is engaging and talking to each other about these concepts. There probably is another end goal in mind, but I think they're really engaged just really in that conceptual side of things of like what those conversations look like. So, and then Inez Garcia. So Inez was working with the idea of migration and its relationship to immigration, and kind of sort of following this sort of similar cyclical migration that the monarch does, but thinking about migrant workers and what it means to kind of move across the country and the relationship between those two. So her project has already had one event where she's created these vitrines that house the monarch butterflies, and people come together and create these environments. And then they, as a group, walk and create a sort of migration through that pattern. So I think, for Inez's work, she's reaching out to different community groups. She's collaborated with another artist on how to engage different groups and where to engage them. The next project will be, I just forgot where it's going to be. My apologies. I think Inez might be on the call, so she may be able to chime in. But I think it's a project for where to kind of continue this idea of migration. And then eventually, I think the monarchs are let loose so they can join in that migration. So, um, and then finally, Cara de Spain. So Cara de Spain, her project in particular is really kind of focused on this idea of a dune town and its relationship to downwinders. So she is in the process of creating a new video work, and that video work uses high-speed cameras to slow down kind of the breaking of these uranium glass project or pieces. But where her project really starts to kind of like, sorry, this is not the piece, but this is just sort of an example of a work, a video work of hers. But it's going to exist in a warehouse. But within that warehouse, they're looking to do more programming around the exhibition, and that's where the collaborations come in. So other people that are focused on nuclear disarmament, nuclear testing, nuclear, what the treaty is sort of the renewal of the treaty recently. So that's where a lot of that community engagement is going to happen, but it's centered around this idea of the new video work within this warehouse. So each one of these is really kind of looking at those, like what the program or what the Assemblage Fund is really looking to fund, like experimental spaces, collaborative projects, expansion, or large scale expansion of new ideas within previous projects, and really kind of taking work to the community rather than necessarily saying like bring your community to my artwork. So it really is kind of expanding I think the reach of artists within our community by being able to do that and kind of taking artworks into communities where engagement can happen at their sort of at their needs rather than our needs and the artist's needs. So yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, it's great, great overview. And then, so we have some current grantees on our call as well that are going to chat a little bit about their project. We've got Peter Hay and Stephanie Garcia, so I'll pass over the floor to them.
Awesome. Let me share our screen. Can you see this? Okay.
You seeing us? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Well,
We are Punto de Inflexión, Peter Hay and Stephanie Garcia, and we are going to share about our project, El Puesto, which is a long-term participatory performance and installation exploring intergenerational Latinx culture, and it is actually happening like right now.
yeah, the project is long-term, but it's set in a market stand, which is what El Puesto means, is stand. Over the course of 5 months, the project collects community stories, explores ritual, memory, evokes the colors, sounds, smells that you'll find in traditional mercados, which are the heart of communities oftentimes in Latin America and also many communities around the world. El Puesto asks, how can shared cultural spaces cultivate connection, memory, and collective identity across generations? So we were really interested in how do we create interaction between multiple generations through art projects that can culminate in some sort of cumulative collective art piece that is the stand, but at the same time fostering exchange between families and hopefully fostering some conversation about what it means to spend time in these markets, and what it means in general to have belonging in a place that maybe isn't your where your roots are from.
Yep, this project got like the project grant tier, and it took us like a couple of like the first 3 months, 4 months almost of planning, because it has a lot of components that we have to coordinate with the market, and some of shifting about it and adaptability, because we've planned for like a specific process, but as many things in life happen, not always is how we planned. So we've been kind of adapting and shifting. But this long term, it is considering currently 4 months in the making. We have already done a couple of those interventions, and the community get to know that these happenings in some way are taking place on these dates. And yeah, well, here there are a couple of examples and photos of the activities we've been developing with the community in the middle of a market inside Salt Lake County.
And part of the impetus for this is we were really interested in things that were exploring relational aesthetic, social engaged projects that, the result is hopefully this puesto, this community sculpture, but I think the true artwork is in the exchange, the conversation that happens, and the learning that we have through the process, and then hopefully the learning that happens among the participants. And so it's something too that has been based upon this idea that the final product, we want to have some sort of record of this and we want to have a final sculpture, but our focus is really in the process.
Yeah, in the making and exchanging with the community of this particular space. Yeah, and well, we will be there for a couple of more dates until the end of September. And really, like as Peter mentioned, this idea of having like a final outcome is really taking place in the space that it is holding us, on what the community is offering and donating to this kind of collective artwork. And it is building every session we are there. We've been working with guest artists as well of our community that teach some workshops for the community. And yeah.
And part of our grant, I'll just mention real quickly, because as you noticed, there's no disclosure of where this is happening or who these participants are. And we really wanted to focus on making a project that was for this specific community and was not hopefully invasive or extractive, So this was also something we were trying to consider, that we were coming in and offering something without the the need of extracting something, if that makes sense. We're kind of going in, we're investing, we're like, we're buying things from the market, we're teaching in the market, it's free, we're eating lunch there. You saw some pictures of food. So hopefully we're also contributing to the community. But the project is also based upon some inspiration from artists like Sean Starowitz, who had a like bread stands that would pop up in food deserts, or community meals that would become places of exchange. That was the majority of his practice for many years. Or going back in Latin American feminist art history, artists like Monica Mayer, who did an installation. You can talk more about that if you want to.
El tendedero. Yeah, like just like inquiring around the 90s and the end of the 90s, early 2000s, inquiring about what it means to be a woman in public space, and kind of asking like what is uncomfortable for women, and collecting all those ideas and thoughts from women in post-its, and after hanging them in a tendedero, in like a clothesline, that after was installed inside of a gallery space or a museum space to provide visibility about the challenges of navigating public space as a woman, or even like other kind of spaces. Yeah.
So those things kind of inspired us in this time of I would say stress for immigrant communities, to go and sort of explore that and see kind of where there is a sense of belonging, of safety, and kind of foster that exchange and comfort, and hopefully conversations that record this time in the hearts and minds of those we're working with, but then also hopefully in a resulting sort of archive that results from the time we've spent in the market with this community.
Oh yeah, this other photo.
Oh, yeah, there's
I
food.
showed the food. And yeah, that's kind of all what we have right now.
Yeah. So.
Thank you both so much. Yeah, I think this project is like a great example of like it checks all the boxes for assemblage criteria, right? And I'm so excited to see how this evolves, and it must feel good to have it finally be tangible and out there in the community. So really appreciate it. Cool. At this point, we are going to hop on to the Assemblage website and go through the application. I just popped a link in the chat if any of you on here want to just follow along as we go through our tour. So we're here on the Assemblage Art Fund website under Apply. We've got all the eligibility, the grant tiers, the requirements that we just went through. And so now if you scroll all the way down to Apply Now, and you're going to find this Apply Here button. It's going to open our submittable page. So if you have used submittable before, you've applied to other opportunities, this is going to look pretty familiar. So you'll just, this is, yeah, a lot of the application resources are here. You've got the application in PDF and Word file format, as well as the budget template, which we'll go through in a minute as well. And then what I also have put here is you can schedule a 30-minute meeting with me sometime during this month. If you need hands-on application assistance, that'll take you to a booking link. So that is another resource that I'm offering here. So I'm gonna go ahead, continue. Okay, so when you click through, you'll see continue or submit. It'll take you through this little eligibility questionnaire. I think I'm already logged in. It will prompt you, yeah, it'll prompt you to log in or create an account. So if you don't already have an account, you'll have to create an account. But I think many of you may already have an account with Submittable. All right, so once you've decided you are eligible, if you are actually eligible, you'll fill out the eligibility screening, and then it will take you here to the application. The application has not changed much since last year, if you did apply last year. We've adjusted a few things, but that's it. So you'll have your lead applicant information. This is an important note. The lead applicant does not receive any extra acknowledgement, or like if you're applying as part of a collaborative or a group of artists, this is really just the main point of contact. That's all you have to know about the lead applicant. This person does have to reside in Salt Lake County, so that may influence your decision of who is the lead applicant if some of your collaborators don't reside in Salt Lake County. So you'll put the contact info in for the lead applicant. We've got a demographic info survey here just for you and your collaborators. This is not scored at all. And you can prefer not to answer for all of them if you'd like. This is just information that is anonymous and provided in our reporting to the Warhol Foundation. That's all it is. So it's helpful if you do answer them, but not required and not scored. And then getting to the good stuff, we've got the project information. So we have the scoring criteria listed again here, your project title, your artist and collaborative names. So if you're applying as an individual artist, this is just going to be your name, your legal name, however you want to be recognized. And then if you're a collaborative, it's just going to be the name of that group. So this will be the name that is published in all of our media sources. So just how you want to be acknowledged. And then you'll select your grant tier, which is outlined again here just as a reminder. And then your project description. So the main change we've made to the application this year is just we've reduced that maximum character count a little bit based on juror feedback. Our jurors have to review a lot of applications. So we limited that just a little bit because I know the feeling as a grant writer, when you see a max character count, you immediately feel pressure to meet it, right? So we brought that down a little bit. You should still have plenty of space to provide the information you need to provide. If you don't feel like that's the case, email me, we can figure something out. So you've got your project description here, which is just basically a summary of your project. You want to be as clear and specific as possible. Use section headers, use bullet points. Think about how many applications these jurors are going to be reviewing. You want to communicate as much detail about your project as quickly and clearly as possible so that they can understand your project quickly and well. And then we have a question about audience and community engagement here. And that's just about which audiences you're engaging, what the community engagement component of your project looks like, who are your partners that you're working with, any venues, local businesses. So that's that question there. Project impact and relevance. So how does your project relate to the current contemporary visual arts landscape? What does the project need? Why here in this community? Why is the project needed here and now, essentially? And then you've got your artist and collaborator bios. So one minor change that we did make is previously, we had a website field up with the lead applicant's contact info. I removed that this year and will include website links here with the bios. And that way it's a little bit more, especially for artists applying as a group, it's that way all artist websites are kind of presented on the same level here with the bios. Yeah, keep these again, like character count, keep the bios short, like a few sentences, 3 to 5 sentences, especially if you have a lot of artists. If you have 1 or 2 artists, maybe they're a little bit longer. And then any known venues, organizations, or folks that you plan on collaborating with or know you will collaborate with, helpful to include a little bit of info about them here. For collectives and like more like bigger like artists applying as a group, just include bios for your group of artists. Also, a description of their role in the project is always helpful. So for these questions that we just went through up here, you also have the opportunity to submit a video or audio response. If writing is not your thing, if you don't feel comfortable with it, if it is just you feel like it's easier to just talk through your project, and you want to present it that way, you can do that. You can submit 4 files for these 4 questions here. And let's see. Yeah, under 5 minutes is the length for that. Again, if you feel like that's not long enough, let me know. But again, jurors reviewing a lot of applications, watching 4 videos over 5 minutes is a lot to ask of them. So we want to respect their time. And then your project timeline. This doesn't have to be the most detailed thing in the world. It doesn't have to get too crazy specific. You can keep it broad, but it does need to show feasibility. It needs to show understanding of what needs to happen to complete your project and when those things need to happen. Like Stephanie and Peter said, things change, right? Like everyone who writes grants and administers grants understands that. And it's totally fine. We expect that things will change and shift. But the jurors just want to see that you know what needs to happen to execute this project and you're capable of doing so. You can also upload a timeline if you want to make a diagram or a PDF or any other format that you want to use to convey that information is fine. And then you'll upload artist resumes or CVs. And again, Assemblage funds entry-level artists, early career artists. We're not looking for the most experience in the world. What jurors are looking for is relation between artist experience and project scale, right? So again, they want to see it pushing the artist careers forward. They want to see how this will impact the artist practice, making sure the scale of the project matches the artist's experience level. So we don't have a really early career artist proposing something incredibly ambitious that looks like it might not end up happening, right? So that's just what that is meant to accomplish. Your artist statement, you can, as an individual artist, this will just be your individual artist statement. For groups and collaborations, you can submit separate artist statements, keep them brief, or one statement for a collaborative. And then you'll have your work samples, max of 10. So you'll upload either 3 to 10 images, you can include links, you can include videos, and these should be relevant to the project you're proposing, and of high quality, and demonstrating the feasibility of the project. And then adjusted this year is the maximum number and length of video work samples. Again, just to respect our jurors' time and make sure that they have plenty of time to give to each application. So let's see. I think that, yeah, I did maximum of 2 minutes. I thought I had a maximum number of videos too. I'll double check on that. But yeah, maximum of 2-minute length. For videos longer than 2 minutes, include a start and a stop time, so jurors know when to start and stop the video. And you are allowed to attach 11 files so that you can include a document with work sample descriptions where you can include those start and stop times. I recommend that you include all of the work samples in a one PDF, using links, images, everything just in one document, just for ease of navigating files within this portal, but you can also upload them individually. And then your project budget, everyone's favorite thing for grant applications, right? But it can in my experience, it can actually be a very helpful place to start. So we've made a budget template, and this is, I think it's exactly the same as last year. So this is what it looks like. And you'll list your project income and your project expenses. So you are, if the assemblage grant is your only project income, that is totally fine. That is all it needs to be. What the Warhol Foundation explicitly states that they are looking to like be the primary source of income. They don't want to be a tiny source of income for a much larger project. This funding is intended to make projects happen, right? So that can be your only source of income, but you're also allowed to include local business sponsorships. You're allowed to include merchandise, fundraiser income, ticket sales, etc. All of that is fine. And then your expenses, again, things change, right? Costs change, but you're going to give your best guess, and it should be an informed estimate, right? So you can look up the cost of things online, be fairly specific. Again, this budget, like, yeah, expenses may shift, but it should demonstrate an understanding of project capacity and expenses and what needs to happen to accomplish your project. Okay. Let's go. All right, and that is the application. So if we go back here, we'll just go through these resources that are available again. So we went through the scoring rubric earlier. And then again, the application is available as a PDF or a Word doc. I highly recommend, it'll take you to this shared Google Doc, which you can then download or make a copy of. But I highly recommend working on your application in a text document like this and not working directly in the portal. Something cloud-based preferably, so that it saves automatically, and that way you won't get halfway through and then lose your information somehow and have to start all over. I definitely recommend working in a separate document, which is why we've created this, and it makes it super easy. If you use Google Docs, you can just make your own copy or download it in a Word doc. Again, the budget template, right here we have a link to the Warhol Foundation's Regional Regranting program website, where you can check out some of the other programs, some of the other projects that are being funded all over the country. Could be some really great inspiration. And then this will be updated to include this information session, and we'll also upload the slides from this information session. So that is that. There we go. All right. And applications are due on Saturday, August 1st, at the end of the day. Last year I had probably at least 3 people email me at like 11:59 or like 12:02 a.m. just being like, like something happened. I couldn't get it in. And if that happens, it's okay. Email me, don't freak out. We'll get it. I'll give you like 2 extra days or something. You'll be able to submit, okay? But plan accordingly. Ideally, that doesn't happen. All right, so some important notes, and a lot of this is probably review, but just for emphasis, again, just an overview of those changes from this year. Website moved around, maximum character counts limited. Yeah, video work sample times limited. Again, that lead applicant is just the main grant contact, and not like especially acknowledged or receives all the grant money and no one else gets any. The nonprofit collaboration rule, this is another thing we get a lot of questions about. They cannot be primary partners or collaborators on your project, meaning they cannot share project ownership or receive any grant funds. I think that is kind of like where I stand on the heart of that rule, is they cannot receive grant funds, because this is meant to fund projects and artists that are overlooked by other funding sources. Typically, nonprofits have access to other funding sources. So you may work with nonprofits in other contexts, such as in-kind venue partnerships, use of their studio space or resources, community outreach, research, etc. Venue. UMOCA cannot be the venue or exhibition space for any part of a grant-funded project. Projects must take place off-site of the museum. We are a nonprofit, and it is considered like a conflict of interest with the foundation. So jurors are looking for non-traditional venues for the arts, not galleries, not art museums. But also this is a rule through the foundation. Specifically. And yeah, we've had applications where people suggest using UMOCA as a venue for their project. So just emphasizing this especially. So the use of AI in your grant application, it can be useful, right? It can be helpful when used intentionally and sparingly. But it is clear to jurors when applications have been just entirely generated by AI. And it's much preferred that you submit an application with errors, spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes in your own voice, rather than one that is clearly generated by AI, right? Okay, so some resources for applications. So you'll have the recording of this information session and these slides in PDF form that will probably go out late next week. I will be out of office for a minute, so we'll get that to you as soon as possible. The info packet, the application documents, all of those things that we just went over available for download on the website. We will be hosting an application workshop on July 22nd at 6 p.m. and we'll have some info going out about that on our Instagram and also in the follow-up email. And you'll be able to sign up for a time to chat with us while we also have kind of like an open working space as well. And then the booking link that I showed you on Submittable to schedule a 30-minute meeting with me, either virtually or here at UMOCA, that is available. And then general communications, signing up for the Assemblage newsletter. My email is all over the website, and I'm going to show it to you in a second. So the workshop will be Wednesday, July 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m. In the UMOCA Education Studio. And you'll be able to sit down, bring your laptop, work on your application in a casual, supportive environment, connect with other applicants, chat with Jared and I, ask questions, and we'll have some snacks for you too. All right, and then there's just where you can find the option to join the Assemblage Art Fund newsletter and my contact info again as well. I am out of office starting tomorrow through like midweek next week, but I will have access to my email next week and I will do my best to check that even earlier on. So the awards process following jury review will be notifying applicants of the grant status in October, and then there will be a public announcement shortly after as well. So grants will be made in early November. 80% of the award is dispersed at the start of the project period, and then the remaining 20% is awarded at the end of the project period. I forgot to change the date on there, but November 2026 is when you'll get the 80%. And then all of the reporting requirements must be met before the final payment is made, unless you need those funds to complete the project, and then we can talk about that. The payment method, grant awards will be paid by check, unless there is some reason why that doesn't work for you. And then we can discuss that as well. Grantees are celebrated at a dinner at a local restaurant, and that will likely be in November as well. So reporting, we're going to try to make this as simple as possible. We actually have not done any grant reporting yet because we are still in the first year of this grant making program. So that'll be happening this fall for the first time, but we're going to try to streamline that as much as possible. We don't want to burden artists with administrative stuff. You should plan to broadly keep track of your expenses and submit that updated budget template with your actual expenses that will be asked of you. And then we'll just ask for a little bit of narrative, what went well, what went wrong, challenges, solutions, collaborations, how it impacted your practice, that sort of thing. And I think we will also offer video or audio option for that response too. And then an updated demographics survey, and we'll ask for some visual documentation. All right, and then we are trying to host just some cohort events with our grantees, including that celebration dinner, intermittent meetups, and some opportunities for feedback and presentation. Those images from construction company's project, you may have noticed they were taken in UMOCA's basement. That is not, it wasn't technically part of their project. It was actually an opportunity that they had to present to our donor group, which is why that happened at UMOCA to avoid the conflict with the venue rule there. All right. That is all I have for talking. We are going to open it up for some Q&A.